on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue. Thank you for joining me here, where we celebrate the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such an interesting place, such an important place, such a special place to live, work, and play. I'm going to share this next week. I've shared this before, but this is a quote from John Muir. It says this: "And into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul." You know, the outdoors in Mississippi, man, I can't overstate how important it is, how important the conservation community is. And I actually have a really cool conversation coming up next week with a young man by the name of Lake Pickle. He actually is on the Primos team. He's a part of Primos Outdoors on the Outdoor Channel and on YouTube. He has a podcast. It's going to be a fascinating conversation about his love of outdoors in Mississippi, and my love of the outdoors in Mississippi. Speaking of the outdoors, you may not be aware of this, but there are a lot of alligators in coastal Mississippi. I live on the water in Back Bay, and over the years, I've seen some big ones. Probably the biggest one I ever saw was probably better than 10 foot long. There are just, all across the state of Mississippi. Our place up in the Mississippi Delta, we see big alligators all the time. We have one that I know about that's probably 12 plus feet long. And for that reason, there's actually a permitted alligator hunting season in the state of Mississippi. And with that in mind, I wanted to invite Ricky Flynt, who's the alligator program coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, to join me today and just talk about the whole notion of alligator hunting and permitting, and probably have learned of some really incredible stories along the way. But without any further ado, let me just welcome to Coast Vue, Ricky Flynt. How you doing, Ricky?
Hey, it's great to be here. A great topic.
Yeah, it's good to see you. Well, let's start with this. I mean, before we get any further, how did you get to become the alligator program coordinator?
That is a pretty good question. I had already been working with this agency for about 10 years at the time, and the position of the alligator program coordinator had been vacant for about 2.5 years, and they were having trouble getting it filled. Nobody inside the agency was interested in doing it, and I was given the opportunity, the offer to take it up, and I did in 2003. And quite honestly, it's been the best decision I've ever made. I've never enjoyed working with a wildlife species more than I have the American alligator in the state of Mississippi.
That's so interesting to hear you say that. See, what's cool about people who do what you do. Rarely do I run into anyone who is part of the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks who's not passionate about their work. They just are. They love outdoors in Mississippi, but more importantly, they understand the role that conservation plays. And I don't care what species we're talking about. Conservation plays a huge role in making Mississippi one of the most, sought after outdoors experiences in the entire nation, if not the world. So what is it about this species of alligators and your opportunity as a program director gives you so much passion for what you do? Well,
you kind of go back into history and learn where the alligator has come from. A lot of people are familiar with the alligator having once been placed on the endangered species list, and that was the case in 1967. And, the southeastern United States is the only part of the world where the American alligator exists. And with that protection in 1967 and the years that followed that, the alligator populations rebounded quite well. They were hunted to the endangered species status. There were no laws to protect them, and the Endangered Species Act did its part in doing that. And then in 1987, the alligator was taken off the endangered species list and across its entire range, Mississippi included. And with that, all of the states were given regulatory authority over alligator populations in their states. And so in 1989, the legislature here in Mississippi started the Mississippi Alligator Control Program, and that's where it got started. Now, for the years following that, it was mainly monitoring that was being taken place. And then there were situations in parts of the state where nuisance alligators existed. In your part of the world down there, on the coastal counties, particularly Jackson County, which is home to about 25% of the state's alligator population. Very vast amounts of habitat available to alligators down there with the Pascagoula River and all the associated tributaries. Great habitat for alligators. And so nuisance alligators became a big part of what we were doing. We knew all along that at some point we would hope to get to a situation where the state could offer some limited alligator hunting opportunities. And when I started in the alligator program in 2003, that was one of the things I was charged with, was to look at the possibility of getting an alligator hunting season started in Mississippi and how we would do that.
That's so interesting. You know, I had not heard the number 25% of the state's population of alligators is in the Pascagoula River complex. But now that I think about it, it makes sense, because when people think of the Pascagoula River, they think of, you know, a river and it's flowing through and whatever, but they don't see this Pascagoula watershed, the largest undammed waterway in the United States, and the amount of area that it consumes, the amount of wetlands that are engaged in that. At the end of the day, it's probably, I won't say probably, it is the best possible habitat for alligators that you could actually create, isn't it?
It is. It's tremendous. You can get in a boat and start in the river, and you could run every tributary that's connected to it, and you couldn't cover it in a week. It's a tremendous resource to the state of Mississippi, and arguably, and one thing we're very proud about is it's one of the most pristine waterways left in the country.
It is. There is no doubt about that. Again, the largest undammed waterway in the United States, and a lot of efforts over the years to protect that and to preserve it, and so that it could be what it is today. But, you know, I would tell people, they're interested, just go to Google Maps. Go to Google Maps and get yourself situated over the Pascagoula River where it flows into the Mississippi Sound, and sort of follow it up and see the complex of delta that exists there. It's really incredible. And so it's no surprise that 25% of the state's population of alligators is actually located there. But they're all over. They're all over the state. I mean, there could be rivers, it could be ponds, it could be, you know, hardwood bottoms. It could be any number of habitats that exist across the state. And when the number gets out of kilter, it becomes a problem. Talk to us about why that is.
Well, the unique thing about alligators compared to most other wildlife species in the state is they have very few, if any, predators once they reach about 4 feet in length. The only predators of concern really are other alligators, as they are cannibalistic. They will attack, kill, and eat other alligators, particularly the adult males during the breeding season. And then other than that, it's man. There is no other species out there that are controlling alligator populations. Now, that being the case, can you leave alligator populations alone and them take care of themselves? Obviously, if you look at how long alligators have been here, they've been here without our help for a very long time. But then once humans got involved and started hunting them to near endangered species status, humans became a problem. And with the protection that has been afforded to them, we are in a management stage now. And so you have also the issues of development. Human development continues to encroach upon all of our wildlife species. Waterways and the wildlife that depend on waterways and those types of ecosystems are particularly prone to those issues. And so that's something that we need to do. We need to be prudent to keep close tabs on these alligator populations, make sure that we're not hunting them to a detrimental condition.
You know, an alligator can live for a very long time, can it?
We know that they can live 70 or more years in captivity. We really have no idea how long they can live in the wild. I would suspect 100 years plus is not out of the question.
Yeah, I remember going to an alligator farm in Arkansas once, and they had an alligator there that they claimed to be over 100 years old. Of course, I don't know, but I was just a kid. I remember thinking to myself, wow, that's a long time. And it was a big alligator. Mississippi is no stranger to big alligators, though, is it?
No. In fact, the Mississippi Delta is probably the most well-known for the extremely large size body mass of alligators that exist there.
So let's do this. Let's do this. Let's come back after the break and let's talk about how big these animals can become and some of the interesting stories that you've heard along the way. I mean, I've seen the pictures on social media. I've seen some of the pictures that you guys have posted, literally dinosaurs. We're gonna come back to that in just a minute. We're having a conversation with Ricky Flynt, the Alligator Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. We'll see you after this break.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
His love for the coast is why he's here. It's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Ricky Flynt, the Alligator Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, a man that takes his job very seriously and is very passionate about it as well. We're going to talk in just a second about, have there been any alligator attacks along the way? Have we recorded any and recorded history? And if so, what were they? And then, boy, there's been some big alligators caught. Well, I want to hear some of those stories as well. But before we go there, tell me specifically about the alligator season, time frame. How does someone get permits? How does the permitting process work? Kind of take us through that.
Okay, so it's a pretty long process that keeps me pretty busy most of the year. Once the alligator season's over and we compile all the information, I don't get much time to rest to start getting ready for the next alligator season. We pass our alligator season proposed rules in the month of March with our commission. And then we start the permitting or application process the first week of June. And we allow the applications to be accepted for a week, June 1st. This year it was June 1st through June 8th. It's all done electronically through our website. A person goes on there. They must have a Mississippi hunting and fishing license. They must be a resident, at least 16 years of age. We do allow non-residents who have a lifetime hunting license in Mississippi are also eligible. This year looks like around about 6,000 applications received for the alligator limited permit process. Then the draw takes place. The people who are drawn are actually notified by email. And in that email, they get a unique link to go to that allows them to actually go and purchase that permit immediately. They have 48 hours to do so. At the end of 48 hours, any unpurchased permits, we do another draw, and we send those emails out, and then we repeat the process. We have 960 available permits that are distributed among 7 alligator hunting zones across the state. And some of the zones have as many as 190. One zone, the Northwest zone, only has 40 permits available. And then we have some that are somewhere in between. The 960 permitted hunters are allowed to go out during the alligator hunting season. This year it starts on August 27th at 12 noon. And then it'll continue for 10 days till September 6th at 12 noon. Those people have special tags that they must attach to their alligator immediately after they've harvested. We allow them to take 2 alligators. Those 2 alligators must be at least 4 feet long, and only one of those can exceed 7 feet. And what this does is it distributes some of the pressure of the harvest among adult breeding size alligators as well as juveniles. And it has worked very well ever since we instituted that back in 2013 to where we now have almost an even 50-50 distribution of harvest among adult alligators and those that are juveniles.
That's very interesting. And there's a very specific approach that has to be taken. Talk about that. So
we started the alligator hunting process knowing that it was going to be a very limited process. We're not really at a goal of controlling the population. What we're trying to do is offer a safe recreational opportunity for the people of Mississippi to go out and take some alligators, a population that is that can withstand some limited harvest every year. And we look at those numbers every year. We know that we're probably harvesting no more than 1 or 2% of the adult alligators that even exist in the state's population every year, even through these 960 permits.
So real quick, the type of technique used to actually catch an alligator. How do people actually get one?
The most popular way, which a lot of people who may not be familiar, you're not allowed to just go out onto the public waterways and discharge a firearm and shoot and kill an alligator. That's a very unsafe situation. That was very paramount in our beginning and planning how this was all going to take place in 2005. You must actually capture the alligator first and have it restrained before it can be killed. The most popular way is to basically cast a large treble hook out across the water, for lack of a better word, snag the alligator, reel it in, get it noosed or snared about the head or at least one leg to where the alligator is controlled. At that point, the alligator is legally restrained, and the hunters can then take a shoulder-fired long barrel shotgun out of the case and discharge it into the spine just behind the head of the alligator, euthanizing it very quickly and humanely, and very safely. Once you have the alligator controlled, it's a very simple process.
So people think about alligators. For people who don't know, they might think just like a shark. They're scared of sharks. Sharks attack people. Alligators, they're big. They got big teeth. And I remember watching The Crocodile Hunter and watching what crocodiles could do. Scary stuff. Have there been any attacks in Mississippi?
There has never been a documented case in the state of Mississippi, modern times. There is some record that shows that sometime back during the 1870s, there is a newspaper article, I can't even remember, it's somewhere on the coast, where someone wrote an article about someone that was actually attacked by an alligator in Mississippi. That's the only record we have. And I had to have someone bring that to my attention just here in the last year or so. So we didn't even know about that one. But no, as far as we're concerned, there's really never been an alligator attack on a human in the state of Mississippi.
What I've noticed too is that when there's a nuisance alligator, they're pretty good about calling the appropriate people and restraining it, taping its mouth, and taking it off and releasing it somewhere else. We've gotten really good at that, haven't we?
We have. The nuisance alligator program, like I said, has been in place since 1989. We have about 12 to 15 nuisance alligator trappers that are private individuals that are contracted with us to help us with the volume of nuisance alligator complaint calls. And through their permitting, they're allowed to commercially dispose of those alligators when we send them out there to get them. They do a very good job. And we encourage everyone from the public, even to the local law enforcement and emergency personnel, to wait till we can get on the scene someone that is experienced to handle them, because they are very dangerous and things can get out of hand very quickly, as I have learned myself.
What? Oh, you have? Tell me about that.
Well, I was once handling an alligator that I probably got just a little bit too complacent, having handled a few too many. And I let one get a hold of my pants leg one day, and it brought me down to the ground, and I was able to get the alligator's mouth restrained and had some help to get my pants unraveled from the alligator. It's about 7 foot long, but it was an eye-opening event that changed the way that I looked and made sure that how I was taking care of myself every time I had an alligator.
Wow. I bet you looked at that moment and said, whew, thank God.
Yeah. we got pictures to prove it.
Oh my goodness. That's incredible. What a great story. What a hair-raising story. Hey, so there are some big alligators in Mississippi. What's the current record?
The current record is about 14 feet and just a little shy of an inch. So about 14 feet and 3/4 of an inch, I believe, is the exact record. We have 2 alligators that are in that range, 14 feet and 1/4 inch, and then one's like 14 3/4 of an inch. Both of those came from alongside the Mississippi River, one right there near Vicksburg on a private property on Davis Island, the other taken along the Mississippi River close to Bayou Pierre, I believe it was. So, the Mississippi Delta, all that territory that is adjacent to the Mississippi River, tremendous ecosystem and just tremendously rich. It grows the biggest plants, the biggest specimens of plants and trees in the country can be found in Mississippi Delta. The largest fish, the hugest concentrations of insects. And if you know much about the food pyramid and the food ecosystem, the food web, this assists alligators as well. They sit at the top of the food chain. And so that nutrient-rich environment is passed along the food web all the way to the alligator, and it expresses itself in their morphological bodies. Their bodies are much larger, usually bigger body mass, so A 10-foot alligator in the Mississippi Delta could weigh as much as 200 or 300 pounds more than an alligator in the central part of Mississippi.
Wow, that's incredible. Grows big deer too, I might add.
Yes, it does.
So, how much does a 14-foot alligator weigh?
The ones that we have recorded were in the neighborhood of 820, 830 pounds. I think the largest alligator I actually have any record on came out of Pascagoula, Jackson County, years ago, probably back around about 2007 or so. It was a nuisance alligator that was taken, and it was weighed at around 930 pounds.
Wow.
It was in the neighborhood of 13 feet long.
A dinosaur. Alligator. Literally a dinosaur. So, Ricky, we're out of time, but man, this has been so interesting to me, and I think it'll be really interesting to our guests. We'll have you back again. In fact, we'll have you back after the season's over and do a kind of review on how it went. That's one of the cool things about the permitting process. You guys are able to measure just about everything that's done during the season. That'll be interesting to hear more about. But anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
This has been Ricky Flynt, the Alligator Program Coordinator for Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And anyway, when we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. See you then.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter. Has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard. And,
wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show. Every day, we're driving the debate in America with the fastest moving, hardest hitting, most comprehensive, fact-based commentary on the radio. We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth. Our show is a meeting place of ideas. We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. Man, I really enjoyed that conversation with the alligator coordinator for the state of Mississippi as part of the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. It was interesting, though. You think about this alligator, you think of this beast, this dinosaur that could be deadly. And to think that he might possess an article from like 1870 where someone on the coast might have been attacked by an alligator, but no other documented situations like that. You get the sense that it's not like a crocodile that eats people. You hear about that, or a shark that obviously attacks people thinking they might be something other than a person. But when you think of an alligator, you think that it's going to be also equally deadly, and it's not. 25% of the state's population of alligators is right down here in the Pascagoula River Basin, this incredible body of water and the ecosystem that exists there. I'm not surprised by that. Like, as Ricky Flynt said, there's this incredible ecosystem there that just breeds amazing alligators. Speaking of alligators, let's turn to my friend Jeff Duncan from The Athletic. He spent a lot of time in South Louisiana over the many years. You've seen a few alligators in your day, haven't you, Jeff?
Heck yeah, out on the water, you always see them. And to me, it's always a good sign as a fisherman if you're in alligator waters, because there's fish there, and they're not going to be in empty waters. So to me, it's always a positive sign. And I've seen more than my fair share of them out on the golf course as well. Especially out at TPC of Louisiana.
Yeah, he talked about that encroachment's an issue because we've done commercial development into their sort of ecosystem. And the one thing he said, actually, that the Mississippi River, the complex of the Mississippi River breeds some of the biggest alligators in the United States because the ecosystem there is so incredible, and they sit at the top of the food chain. So you have, he said the plants are bigger, the fish are bigger, and so on and so on. As I described that, you can't help but think about what you just said, that when you see alligators present when you're fishing, it means there's probably going to be fish there, and because they're at the top of the food chain, if there's not fish there, they're going to go find them wherever they are. So, that's a good sign. One other quick kind of anecdote about alligators. In 2005, prior to Hurricane Katrina, from time to time, we would see a really large alligator near my house, like 10 foot long. It would be like right before dark or early in the morning, and every now and then, but never like in the middle of the day. I was on the phone with the publisher from Columbus arranging our backup plan with Katrina bearing toward us. It was on a Saturday afternoon before, as you know, started to feel effects on Sunday and then into Monday, Saturday afternoon. So I'm on the phone Saturday afternoon. It was like early afternoon, and I look out to the Bayhead Swamp where we had seen this alligator before, and there it sat. I mean, it was just 10 foot long, came out of the Bayhead Swamp out into the bay, and I'm thinking, isn't that interesting? Never saw it under that circumstance, but it reminds me of, how ants they sense that bad weather's coming and they do whatever they do. I think this alligator probably sensed something bad was happening, and it did whatever it was going to do. And we haven't seen it since. Isn't that interesting? We've seen smaller alligators, but haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
They sense it.
I can remember being out on a lake fishing once, and this little flock of ducks came up near the boat, and they all took off immediately together at one point, Ricky. And me and my fishing partner were like, what was that all about? They just immediately bolted up, and then literally 5 seconds later, this alligator surfaced. Like, they knew he was down there under the water. You're right. They sense things, these animals, and it's just fascinating to think about.
It really is. It really is. So, hey, what's fascinating to think about is watching the Saints in the off season, because they don't have Drew Brees anymore. And there's been a lot of opportunities actually to see the team start to come back together again. We're gonna get into that before we finish this conversation for sure. But your story on Arch Manning finally hit The Athletic, and as I mentioned to you, I've seen it aggregated. Now, for people who don't know what that means, explain to them what aggregation means.
Aggregation in the news world is when other news outlets pick up your story and kind of source it and write their own story based on your story, if you will. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but for instance, on this Arch Manning story, it was a big story about his recruitment. So almost all these little in-house websites that cover the sports programs at, say, Alabama, Texas, Notre Dame, LSU, Ole Miss, all the schools that are considering Arch Manning, they aggregate and repurpose their own stories based on what they read in my story from Arch Manning. So it's kind of a replication, and that's where you hear the term viral a lot of times. Stories that go viral often are aggregated a lot.
I saw one of the stories I saw was from, I think, a Giants beat writer in New York aggregated it. And what I mentioned to you out the air is that it was like, okay, a typical aggregation would be just a little brief paragraph and then a link. But, today there's a lot of liberty taken in aggregation. It was almost like they stole the story from you. And then, and by the way, here's a link if you want to read the original story. But, it's 3 or 4 paragraphs and then finally giving Jeff Duncan credit for this story that was written about in The Athletic, and then sort of continuing from there. But boy, people can take a lot of liberty with an aggregation, can't they?
I've seen some of them almost as long as the story that I've written before. In this case, it wasn't, but you're right. And it's just amazing to me at such a young age, he's 16 years old, going to be a junior this fall, that there's already this much interest in him. Obviously, he's got the name Manning. It's a star power there. It's an incredible brand in football. But it is surprising to me just how much he moves the needle at such a young age.
And for good reason, right? I mean, this guy at a young age is already setting records, and there's every indication that he's going to be a special talent, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't really see any flaws in his game, Ricky. I mean, he's obviously very smart. He's way ahead of his peers as far as knowing the game of football, just by virtue of his lineage. His uncles were Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. His grandfather was a great quarterback. His father was a great football player. He's been around the sport of football at a level that no one else, his own peers, can only dream about. And that's given him a head start. He's so advanced for his age. But then when you watch him play, you see the processing power of Peyton Manning, the poise of Eli, the running ability of Archie. I mean, old school football fans that remember Archie from his Ole Miss and Saints days, I mean, he was a tremendous athlete that could run. And also, his father, Cooper, was a tremendous basketball player. He was a wide receiver. He's a very good athlete. And so he has the athleticism of those guys combined with all the other skills of Eli and Peyton at quarterback, I mean, he's kind of a can't-miss prospect.
Hey, I saw a picture of Cooper recently standing with someone I knew, actually. I forgot how tall Cooper was. How tall is Cooper? He's a tall dude.
Yeah, he's about 6'4", close to 6'5". And, Peyton, of course, was also about 6'5". And Arch he's just a sliver under 6'4" right now. He's had a growth spurt in the past year and a half. So I think he's going to be right there before all's said and done. And he's starting to fill out his frame. He works out with a personal coach, training coach. In this recruitment, I think the reason there's so much interest in it, other than his tremendous talent and the name recognition and star power that you get with getting a Manning in your program, is that he's completely wide open. And what I mean by that is he's got about 10 or 12 schools that he's really looking at. But of those 10 or 12 schools, he's pretty much wide open. He doesn't really have a favorite right now. He wants to go out and visit these schools this month. He just got back from Clemson, where he got an offer. He's going to go to Texas and SMU this weekend, and then on to, I think, Virginia and North Carolina. He's going to get to Georgia and Alabama. So those schools, he hasn't even stepped foot on their campuses yet. He hasn't met the coaches in person yet. So it's hard for him to really develop much of a favoritism right now, because he's just now getting started because of the pandemic really put things behind.
One last thing. You've covered the Saints longer than anyone else in history, and is currently in front of us at this moment covering the Saints. And what it does for you is it gives you incredible access to a story like this. I'm sure that there are a lot of reporters that say, man, how does Jeff do this? But you have great relationships, don't you?
Well, I mean, I'm fortunate that I've known the Mannings for a long time and been around them for a long time. And as you know, I mean, James Carville had a great comment the other day. He goes, the Mannings aren't a family, they're a clan. And I think that's the truth. I mean, they're very tight-knit family, and I happen to be close to them, and they are not the most you have to earn their trust and respect, and rightfully so, because they understand the media very well, and they understand how things can get out of control. So they're managing this as best they can. And as soon as our story dropped, Ricky, it went wild. I mean, they got inundated with media requests, and they had to kind of shut everything down again. So it's going to be this way for them for the next 2 or 3 years.
I think it's wise for them, do sort of spin a story out every now and then with someone they trust, and then, say no to everybody else for a while. I mean, yes. Otherwise it's a feeding frenzy.
That's exactly what they're doing.
You don't want to do that, but you want to, aggregation actually gives them the opportunity through the Athletic first, and then beyond that, which links back to the Athletic, gives them a chance to fully inform people about what our current thinking is now, and no additional story on top of that's going to change anything that was in that story. We're not all about just, aiding the feeding frenzy. That's very smart. When we come back, we'll get the latest on the Saints. They're actually getting together now. We're beginning to be able to draw some conclusions, or some observations, let's put it that way, of the early training that they're doing. And we'll continue the conversation with Jeff Duncan from The Athletic when we come back.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever, with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
It just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera slips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We're having a conversation with Jeff Duncan from The Athletic, and let's move on over to the Saints. This is the time of year they're starting to get together. You're starting to be able to make some observations. Kind of explain to people what stage of the season we're at this point.
Well, this is a period of time they call the organized team activities. I think it's a dumb word. They need to come up with something better. It's basically practice, right. On-field practice, mini camp practices. But the Saints are taking a little bit of an unconventional approach to it. They're not doing any teamwork on the field. I think Sean Payton has met with the leaders on the team and kind of hashed out a plan that's not going to be too taxing physically for the team. So they're doing on-field work individually with their coaches, but nothing like 7-on-7 or full teamwork. It's mainly conditioning, getting in the weight room, and meeting mentally, going over the installation of the offensive and defensive game plans that they'll install for the season. And they've got 100% participation right now, which is obviously very good. Everyone's there, 85 players on the roster, and they're slowly getting their numbers up in terms of vaccinations for the COVID-19. That's a big thing, Ricky. They need to be at 85% of the roster to really meet. That's the NFL's kind of mandated goal for this coming fall camp. Right now, the Saints are about 60% of the roster. They're hoping to get up around 70%. And Peyton said this week that he thinks they will get to 85% by the start of training camp, which is important because then they can reduce some of the restrictions and limitations.
So, yeah, in terms of restrictions and limitations, do you read from the NFL that they want to go full bore? Yes, I think so. I think some of the other issues that we're running into as media members is they're potentially still going to close the locker rooms. There's going to be limitations on media access. And I know Lindsey Jones on our staff at The Athletics, president of the Pro Football Writers of America, she's trying to push back to get us access. If we're going to have full stadiums for fans, which is pretty much what everyone's expecting, it doesn't seem to make much sense that we couldn't have open locker rooms. But so we'll see how that availability and media access works out. But the Saints are trending in the right direction. All their coaches and their tier one scouts and personnel people have all been vaccinated. So I think they're in the top third of the league right now in their numbers. So is there any buzz? You got all 85 athletes back, players back. Is there any buzz about any lingering injuries that could be important?
Well, not necessarily injuries, but there is positive news in that everyone's there, because there have been some scuttlebutt, maybe some speculation that Marshawn Lattimore might not show up or Ryan Ramczyk might not show up, because they are both operating on one-year deals right now. They have no long-term deals. So there was concern that maybe neither one of them would show up as a stance to try and get leverage on a long-term deal. But both of them are there. So I think that's a very positive sign for the leadership of the team, because both of those are key players that's certainly going to be part of the core going forward.
My read on that is that Ryan certainly could have used that, but I don't think that Marshawn Lattimore is in a position to do that given his potential legal problems, don't you think?
No, I think you're right. And I think the other aspect of that is, he probably wants to be a good soldier right now to get a long-term deal. And I think that's the best approach to show Mickey Loomis, the organization, that you're being a team player, especially at that position, Ricky. We know that, Sean Payton's come out and said, he's made no bones about it. They need to add and expect to add another cornerback to the roster. They brought in Drake Kirkpatrick and some other veteran players this week for workouts. So I expect they'll sign somebody before the start of camp.
Anything new on his Lattimore situation?
No, it's been on the quiet, on the down low. And here's the thing people need to know. Even if those charges get dropped, the league can still suspend him and discipline him if they choose for a violation of the personal conduct policy. So he wouldn't be out of the woods even if they get some kind of resolution there.
Wow, that's so interesting. And hopefully, he is such a key member of the team. And hopefully this, whatever transgression it was, we don't know all the facts surrounding it, but whatever it was a one-time event, and he'll come back and be a great soldier, whatever the NFL disciplinary action is. Let's just hope that's the case, because we need him. He had a good year last year. And man, do we need cornerbacks, given, especially when you think about where Tampa Bay has gone and other teams are headed. Man, we need the best defensive backs we can possibly get our hands on, don't we?
Yeah, I tell you, one of the good news this week for the Saints, Julio Jones got traded out of the division all the way over to the AFC, to the Tennessee Titans. So he's less of a headache now for guys like Marshawn Lattimore, because he's a tremendous talent.
Were you surprised to see that go down in Atlanta the way it did?
No, there have been rumors that might happen. Once Terry Fontenot, of course, former Saints executive, took over, he's got some salary cap issues there and trying to get that roster, overhauled. And with a guy making that much money at age 32, he seemed like a likely guy. And he wasn't happy there. He wants to win, and he knows this is a transition period for the Falcons. So it kind of made a lot of sense.
And Jeff, if you've helped us understand, Terry Fontenot came from the system, the Saints system. He was a bright, future GM, and now he's landed in Atlanta. We hate that we lost him, but he comes from a disciplined system that Julio, given his state of mind, didn't, even aside from the salary cap, didn't fit into the system, probably just because of his discontent and what he was expressing. So, it probably was multifaceted, don't you think?
Yeah, and look, that ruins your leverage if you know the player wants out. So they tried to keep that under wraps for as long as they could. That's why you see a player as talented as Julio Jones only get traded for a second and a fourth round draft pick. This guy's a future Hall of Famer, but he's been injured lately. He's got a big price tag, so a lot of things made him a difficult trade for a lot of teams. But the Titans, I think now, pair him up with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown, they're going to be formidable.
I predict he's going to have a good season. That's what I think. Jeff Duncan, thank you for spending time with us from The Athletic. Have a great day, buddy.
Thanks, Ricky. Take care. We'll see you next week.
And we'll see you later. See you Monday. Have a great weekend.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.